legal case management systems. Law firms waste thousands of dollars every single year on software that looked great in the demo, but ultimately fell flat on its face in practice. My journey with case management systems started when a friend of mine called me in a panic. He had purchased the wrong case management system software, and unfortunately, he was already a year into the process and $160,000 down the drain. And ultimately, this platform was lacking one critical feature, which was the nail in the coffin: leads billing. It didn't support it. He called me to come in and rectify the situation. My mission was simple. It was to narrow down the list of all available software platforms on the market so that I could identify the best possible legal case management software that fit this firm's needs, and to implement it all without disrupting the business in the process. Through this implementation and future implementations I would take on, I learned to navigate the complexities and the pitfalls of legal case management systems. And this ultimately led me to create what I call the DIRE methodology, a 4-step process: document, identify, roadmap, and execute, that guides you from confusion to complete confidence and clarity in your legal case management selection process. If you're in the market for a new legal case management system, I recommend you strap in, because I'm going to give you the full scoop on how exactly I do it. Let's roll. All right. So before you can even begin with the first steps of the DIRE methodology, you'll first need to assemble your joint steering committee. This is your decision-making dream team for the duration of your case management implementation and selection process. So choose wisely and choose once. Now, keep it intentionally small, 2 to 3 individuals max, and this will ensure you don't have too many cooks in the kitchen. Who should actually be on this committee? Well, you'll want one person who understands the firm's finances. This will provide the strategic guidance. You'll be able to project the required ROI to make this project a success, as well as identify any billing and financial needs going forward. 2, you'll want someone who understands your firm's current tech stack. If this project is going to be any success, you'll need someone who understands what technology integrations are required, as well as any technical limitations that might arise during this process. And 3, you'll need someone who understands the core processes that are required for delivering your firm's work product. You can't create success unless you understand what workflow needs your firm has and how to integrate those into your daily activities to create efficiency. Once you've established your joint steering committee and you've assembled those folks, create a recurring bi-weekly calendar meeting for all of you to meet on a regular basis. This will provide a consistent touch point so that you can make effective decisions, and it allows you to adjust for any variables that arise during this process. So step 1 in DIRE is document. This is where you effectively build the foundation for your firm's case management selection process moving forward. So with your joint steering committee in place, it's time to finally decide exactly what your firm needs. This isn't just about creating a wish list of features. No, it's more than that. This is about understanding the context in which your firm operates, understanding the current frustrations that you're facing, as well as who in the firm is facing them, and just establishing the goals for the firm for the future, making sure all of this is in alignment with your case management system. Most firms, unfortunately, skip this step, meaning they're burdened with additional research, redundant work later on in the process, and unfortunately, it just makes every decision much more difficult than it needs to be if you skip this. Here's how you move forward productively. You meet with your joint steering committee and you ask the following questions. What frustrations are we currently facing within the firm? 2, why now? What about the current moment in time makes it the most appropriate time to consider making a case management switch? And 3, define your success criteria. So in 6 to 12 months, what would constitute a win for our firm? You'll want to be as detailed as possible. And you'll find that by moving forward with this level of intentionality, that every decision that you make from now on will be strategic rather than reactive. Next up, we're going to create a full firm profile. We've identified 57 unique criteria that matter when it comes to case management selection. And this ranges from total staff count at the firm, and this obviously includes attorneys, paralegals, admin assistants, and other support staff. This will ultimately help you to identify what your performance needs are, as well as licensing costs. Next, we want to know what billing model your firm typically uses, especially if there are multiple in place. I'm talking about flat fee, contingency, hourly, or hybrid models. You'll want to document this so that way you can ultimately decide what billing features are going to be necessary so that you can collect and get paid. You also want to be sure to capture the proportion of matters that you're handling under each model as well. The current tech stack in place. So this is everything from electronic filing systems to e-signature to records retrieval to discovery platforms. You want to ultimately document this to ensure compatibility with your case management system. You also want to know the overall level of tech proficiency across your firm. So go ahead, survey your firm, send out a survey, and have everyone rank 1 to 5 how comfortable they are with technology. By documenting all of these items in this step, what you'll find is that it sets you up to use our scoring system, which comes in a later step. And by the way, since we're documenting everything now, go ahead and document the fact that you were here in this video by liking and subscribing. And that way you won't miss any future videos related to running a more efficient practice using technology. All right, let's keep it rolling. Step 2 is identify. In this phase, we're going to create a short list of 3 to 5 contender case management systems that you'll ultimately rank against each other in the following phases. There are over 150 case management systems that exist to date. So where do you even begin in your search? Well, I'm assuming that since you're here, you're not working with a third-party consultant. Here's my recommendation. You start with the biggest, most reputable case management systems first to establish a baseline for comparison. These are platforms like Clio, Smokeball, Carrot Legal, Aderant, Filevine, MyCase, Litify, and a few others. We recommend you start here first so that you can understand the functionality and features that are industry standard. From there, you can decide whether you want to pivot towards a more focused niche offering that might even fit your firm's documented profile even better. But remember, every firm is unique. So the case management system that fits your firm's needs perfectly might actually be completely inappropriate for another firm, even if they're in the same practice area. That's why we spend so much time documenting your firm's profile in the previous step. Now, if you still need help, you can check out websites like G2, which list out most of the popular case management systems' basic functionality, as well as Bob Ambrogi has an amazing write-up on his website LawSites, where he ranks the basic use cases of most of the popular case management systems. Once you have your list of 3 to 5 ready to go, you are almost ready to schedule demos and discovery calls with the vendors. But before you do that, you need an action plan. You need to understand what questions need to be answered, what features exist within the platform, and ultimately, how is your data going to integrate within the platform? Luckily for you, in our case management selection guidebook, we actually list all of the questions that you need to ask based on real discovery calls that we facilitate with our clients. A few examples of the type of questions you'll ask are things like, does your platform support custom fields? What kind of reports can you run from the platform? And can those reports be generated on an automated basis? Does your platform support templates for documents and routine forms? And when we're talking about documents, can I take my existing documents and store them in your platform? And if I can I search those documents by just title, or can I also search the contents of those documents when I'm performing universal search? These are all powerful questions that you'll want to ask before and know the answers before you actually implement the case management system. The demos are now complete, and that means you are finally ready to score and decide. We've set up a scoring system based on years of experience working with law firms across geographies and practice areas. We've taken that data and used that to assign weights to each category that we feel is important based on the priorities of all of these firms. Now, you'll need to remember that every law firm is unique. So my recommendation to you is that you take our initial category weights and adjust those depending on your firm's individual priority so that it matches your reality rather than a generic benchmark. Now, once you've done that, you'll want to take all of the assigned scores for each category and multiply that by the category's weight. You then take that, add all of those items up to give yourself a total weighted score for each category. And once you've done that, boom, all of a sudden, you now have yourself an objective method of comparison. The next step, you'll want to schedule a meeting with your joint steering committee. And then in that meeting, you have one objective. That objective is to analyze each of the platforms that you've assessed, the weighted scores, and discuss the upsides, but more importantly, you'll want to discuss the downsides of each platform. And you'll want to pressure test this decision from every angle to make sure that this decision is based on practical improvements to the firm and free of any subjective bias. Now, choosing your case management system is like tending a garden. You start off with a lot of options, chaos even. However, If you want to see real growth, you have to first cut away what doesn't belong, what's not going to bear fruit. What you're left with is your short list of case management systems, your pruned foundation. Now it's time to nurture it into something that will thrive in your firm. Now, step 3, the R in DIRE is for roadmap. Now, this is one of the most important steps because ultimately, this is where we create the foundation for a smooth transition. Plan your migration accordingly. You'll want to contact your selected vendor, schedule calls with them, and in these calls, you're going to want to ask about the sequencing of events. Ask things like, when does non-financial data get imported versus financial data? Or, which of our current custom fields are supported in the new platform? I've seen things like statute of limitations deadlines or related parties. And ultimately, are these fields going to be operational day one, or will they require post-implementation work? What format do clients and contacts need to be imported in? And then ultimately, who is responsible and how much of the work will your case management system do in accessing other systems that you might have to pull data out of them? You'd be surprised how many case management systems won't touch other platforms and they require your firm to pull the data first. So if you're going that route, make sure you have a technology adept member on your team who can do that. So, establishing a good flight plan in aviation doesn't necessarily guarantee you a smooth flight. It's all about the execution. The plan is what gets you off the ground, but the execution is what gets you to your destination. Step 4, the final phase in the DIRE methodology, execution. This is where the plan meets reality. You'll want to follow your plan in accordance to the roadmap that we set up in the previous steps. A post-implementation support plan in place, typically 60 to 90 days with your vendor. I recommend meeting with them on a weekly basis. You'll want to immediately start tracking user adoption once you go live. This looks like you'll want to talk about the issues that users are having. You'll want to analyze the features that individuals are using within the platform, as well as tracking the total logins, who's logging in when, in order to verify that the platform is actually being used. So the whole goal in this step is we want to ultimately completely get away from using the old systems and disable access by the date that you indicated in your roadmap. Otherwise, you run the risk of users reverting to old habits, using the old platform, and all that does is create data duplication and fragmentation. 2 issues which are very difficult to clean up later. Once you have these items in place, you want to start tracking your ROI versus the projected ROI initially. I'm not just talking about from a profitability and financial standpoint. What I'm saying is that you're going to want to track things like staff efficiency increases, client satisfaction, error reduction. These are 3 items that are critical to nail, and ultimately the proper implementation of your case management system will drive those metrics. So as long as those are in the green, you should be good to go. However, if you're 12 months in and the case management system is not at least paying for itself, then you'll want to consider adjusting the strategy or escalating this issue to your joint steering committee for broader changes. Document, identify, roadmap, execute. 4 steps. That's all that's separating you from either making the wrong choice and wasting money or potentially ushering in the most productive era your law firm has ever experienced. That's why we've taken all of this and put it into our case management selection guidebook. This is a resource that's completely compatible with everything that I've told you today. It's got a place to document your firm profile, a place to capture notes as you conduct your vendor interviews and demos, as well as it has a scoring system and all of our recommended weights built in so that you can narrow down the options and select the best case management system. You can go ahead and download that in the description of this video, and of course, it's completely free. Now, since document is the very first step and the one that ultimately builds a stable foundation or where things fall apart, I took the liberty to sit down with a law firm CFO to discuss the document step in more detail. You can click on the video that's on your screen to see that conversation. I'll see you in the next one.